my co-host and co-chair, who is Lavinia Boyer. She is also the Pathways Committee Chair and a Division Director herself for Division H. So Lavinia, if you wouldn't mind waving. There you go. Well, today, what I want to do, we have this broken up into segments. And the first part, I'm going to do a little bit of talking, kind of guiding you through some things and giving you some information. And then I'll turn it over to Lavinia, who will talk about pathways and base camp and those things that, of course, you all really need to know so that you'll be successful. And then we'll take maybe a 10-minute break, and then we will come back and Lavinia will wrap up her segment, and then I will go into a few things like policy and protocols and a few other things so that you all will be able to have it. All righty. Michael, I can share, correct? Yes, fantastic. Thank you. All righty. So what I'd like to do now is kind of bring your attention to the Toastmasters International website. As a Vice President of Education, this is going to kind of be your baby. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to point out to you, but I want to start off with the basic and where you should be most of your time, and that is in Club Central. And I'm not going to steal any of Lavinia's thunder, but a lot of the reason you'll be in Club Central is right here where you'll see Submit Education Awards. But I will bypass that. What I really would like to point out are some of the things that you can do as the VP. So for example, Club Roster. You can actually click on this right here. And I'm praying, there we go. And you will have an active roster of everyone in your club, all your members. And that's good. And you can actually print it out or make it into an Excel spreadsheet. That's something that I think you should have at hand, especially being the Vice President of Education, so you'll know who everyone is. And especially since now our only education platform is Pathways. I think somebody might have had a question. Was someone going to say something? Okay. Next, and this is where you should be spending some of your time at too, which is your Distinguished Performance Report. And this is just for your club. Now, there's another way you can access this through Leadership Central, and I'll show it to you later on. But this is the easiest way because you don't have to go through all the steps if you go through Leadership Central. So you'll click on this, and it'll go directly to your club. It'll show you what region, district, area, division and area you're in. And then it's going to show you your base as of July 1st, okay? And then your base to date. In order for you to qualify to be either distinguished, select distinguished, or president's distinguished, you need to either grow your club. Basically, you need a net growth of 5. So this is what gets a lot of clubs messed up because they may have 5, 7, 9, 10 goals, but the reality is this right here, your membership, is where you tend to lose. I really want you to make sure first you know what your base is at the beginning of the year, and then what you're required to get in order to qualify for one of these. It's extremely important. Now, since we are on Pathways, here is where you'll see all the goals that you'll need. What I want to do is kind of teach you guys a different way of looking at this. Normally, a lot of times we get caught up on the educational goals, and that's fine. But I will tell you that goals 7 through 10 are the goals that 90% of the time will knock you out of being distinguished or above. My suggestion is focus on 10 and work your way up. If you can get 10 through 7 completed, you will be in good standing because your members, at least one member is going to give you an educational award. Now, I say that based on, of course, when we were in the legacy system, but as you can see, you need 4 members to get level 1, 2 members to get level 2, 2 additional, 2 to get 3, and then 1 to get level 4, 5, or DTM, and then 1 additional. Ladies and gentlemen, please, please, I beg of you to kind of pay attention to 7 to 10. Now, here you'll see this club here, they had 7 for 7 officers trained, and they also had their officer list on time. So you definitely want to make sure, if you don't see, if you see a 0 here, then unfortunately you won't get number 10. That's not really going to knock you out. It's usually the officer training and the membership. These are the 2 that will knock you out. And of course, your membership dues that are turned in on time. But make sure you understand what you're looking at here. Training. A lot of you, this may be your 2nd, 3rd, 4th time around as an officer training, and I understand it. And you may think to yourself, why should I go into this training? I will tell you that every TLI, there's always something different. It may not be a major change or major information, but if you compare what you learned in the summer TLI to what you're going to learn in the winter TLI, you will see that there's going to be a slight difference. I always encourage all of the officers to attend. With you being a VPE, that is your responsibility. Training, education and training. So it is up to you to encourage your officers to attend either the TLIs or the COTs, especially for those first timers, because you don't want someone going into a role that they really don't know or understand, and then your core group, your executive committee, is not working together. They're not in sync because maybe 3 or 4 people know their roles, but then the other ones don't. And now you've created kind of a little bit of turmoil because you have most of the people who attended the training doing all of the work when the other people who didn't are not. Any questions on this so far? All right, let me go back.
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
Hey, David Lamar here. I just wanted to know, why should a club be distinguished outside of reaching their individual goals? Like, what would be the selling pitch in terms of getting all club members on board in terms of seeing the importance of being distinguished?
That's a great question, Lamar. You know, I used to think about that myself when I first joined Toastmasters. What's the importance of being distinguished? Well, it serves a couple of main reasons. I'll give you the 2 main reasons. Retainability. When you are encouraging your members to strive for various goals and they are achieving those goals, then you're retaining your members, your existing members. As we all know, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of times we have people who join Toastmasters and they're seasonal. They come in, they get what they want out of Toastmasters, and then they're gone. But what about those members who have found value in Toastmasters and have decided to stay? They've renewed 2, 3, 4, or more times, but then all of a sudden, your focus has shifted as a club or as leaders, and you're focused more on getting new members, making sure that new members are getting what they want out of Toastmasters, but you're not helping or giving your existing members what they need, then all of a sudden they're leaving because they're like, well, why am I wasting my time if I can't do speeches, if I can't get my leadership opportunities or whatever the case may be. So retainability is number one. And then the second reason is without clubs being healthy, slowly but surely our clubs are going to start dying off. And then slowly but surely Toastmasters will die off. And that's a fact. I know it might seem extreme, but Toastmasters sets up these guidelines and these goals based on if you have 20 members or more, they feel like that's a healthy club. And the reality is that, let's say you have 25 members, you meet twice a month. You're probably going to get about 50 to 55% of your membership coming to the meetings twice a month. So you may get 12 to 13 that come that first meeting, and then you might get 12 or 13 that come that second meeting. Very rarely are you going to have all of your members attend every meeting at the same time. So it makes it easier for you to, one, when you're doing the agenda, fill the roles out, such as Toastmasters, timer, all counter, grammarian, and then also having your speaker. So you will have a full slate of people there and you can change it up, instead of having the same members doing the roles over and over and over again. I hope that answers your question, Lamar. I mean, do you want me to go into a little deeper or?
I think that was great. The only last question I have is, what does it actually mean to be distinguished? I mean, outside of reaching those goals.
Well, for your club, and with you being the VPE of City of Columbus, you'll notice that you have streamers, and I can say this because, of course, I'm a member also. And every year since the City of Columbus has chartered, they've been President's Distinguished. That's a good marketing tool when you have a club banner. And of course, if we were not in this COVID-19 space, when you have guests that come in and they see these ribbons that are attached to your banner, that you have been President's Distinguished year after year after year. Also, when your VPPR puts it on your Free Toast host site, or if they talk about it on there, if you have a Facebook page or whatever the case may be. So it's a good marketing tool. Plus, it just shows that your club as a whole has bought into Toastmasters, and your leaders of that year had a good vision that all the members had bought into. So that's another reason why it's good to have, to at least be distinguished or better.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Did someone have something in the chat? I'm not looking at the chat. So Michael, if there's a question, feel free to let me know.
I just added to what you said that you also get bragging rights.
I didn't want to say that, but to be honest with you, we all have a little bit of competitive nature ingrained in us. It's in our DNA. And sometimes it is good to be able to say, hey, listen, my club every year has been President's Distinguished. I can tell you for a fact there is one club, Midway Toastmasters down in Kentucky, that they right now are the bar for District 40. Every year they submit at minimum 80 educational awards. Their officers and members have bought into trying to do the best that they can for their club. They also go out into the community. Every time there's an event, whether it's 4-H, county fair, whatever the case may be, they are there. They hooked up with the local college there, and they do various speech crafts. So they are always talking about Toastmasters to any and everyone who will listen to them. So bragging rights is a good thing. It really is. But more importantly, I think it just shows a sense of pride and belief in your club. that, hey, I'm a member of a great club, and regardless of all the other clubs out here, I can go out and with confidence and say, my club is a great club. And we all say that, but numbers don't lie. So if you're below 20 and you haven't been President's Distinguished or distinguished, and you're not getting people to do awards, then you probably need to look at the culture of the club. Like, why isn't people buying into the awards? Why is it that the officers are not attending the training? And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, is look at yourself in the mirror. But the good thing is we have tools for that, and we'll talk about that the second half of the training session. Now, here's something for all of you, and this is the administrative reports. And here you can actually pull up some things like the charter members, past and present club officers, and past and present club awards. And to me, this is a good thing. A lot of you may not know who the charter members are. And you could find out who they are, maybe reach out to them if they're still around, and see if they can attend a meeting and talk about why they even chartered or joined your particular club. The past and present officers, for most of you, if you've been in Toastmasters for a while, you pretty much know them. But past and present educational awards, this could be a way to probably get your members' blood flowing. So you can say, hey, look, let me pull one up. But you could say something along the lines of, hey, look, these are all the members that have turned in awards. So as you can see here, I turned in my ALS, I received my DTM on July 1st, so on and so forth. And this is what I did in 2020. So I just turned in 4 awards. But if you go back, you'll probably notice that I did a little bit more in 2018. So this could be a challenge. You could say, whoever turned in the most awards last year, let's see if somebody can beat them this year. So it's a good way to kind of market and get your members interested in buying into why it's important to have or try to strive for those goals. Also, here's another one. You can see club achievements. Right now, you will see we don't have any, but this is where you'll see the Smedley, Talk Up Toastmasters, and Beat the Clock. If your club has qualified for these, it will be in here, and then it tells you what you need to do in order to qualify for it. So these are just membership building programs. Mainly your VPM should be familiar with this, but also you as the VP, you should have a very close relationship with your VPM, and I'll explain that a little bit later on, but you should know this. For the Distinguished Club Program, this is where you should be at, and you can talk about those things. So Lamar, this is something that you can pull up, like if you're having just a meeting with the club officers, and you can say, see, we've been President's Distinguished, or we received this award 6 times. So basically every year since we chartered. But this is a good way for all of you to know what's going on with your club. And then lastly, and to me, this is really important, I would say you should take a look at this and make sure that the club president and the VPPR are aware of this, because a lot of times we don't change this information. If you are online meeting, like we put attendance, and currently we still have our the main library is where we're meeting, but that is going to change. We're going to go strictly to an online platform. But what is important is that this information here should match up with either the VPM or the president of your club. a lot of times what ends up happening is people don't change this, and then your president is the one who's getting all this information, and he or she ends up leaving Toastmasters, and then you're not understanding why you're not getting any kind of information. Okay, Beatty, you got beat it on this, sweetie. You can come back in a few minutes. That's my mini Toastmaster that always Zoom bombs me. But you want to make sure that the current either VPM or president information is in here. All righty, so any questions on that? All right, so we have let me go.
Hey, David, can you go back to Club Central real quick?
I'm sorry?
Can you go back to Club Central real quick?
Sure. Yes.
And can you click on, what is it, club contact information there?
Yep, club contact and meeting information.
Yeah. And so this, I don't want to
yes,
still.
I'm sorry, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I don't want to still, like, Lavinia may mention this as well, but if you scroll up a little bit, David, where it said that email address right there, that's where for pathways, any pathways notifications are going to get sent to that email address.
Exactly.
So be mindful of that.
So that's important also. If you have a Facebook page, you can put that in there. You can see contact information. And like I said, currently we still have this as our meeting location. And this is also important. You always want to make sure that the meeting schedule, day and time is done. My suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, is right when you have your club officer election in May, that you make sure that this is updated. So as long as that's updated, you should be fine. Thanks, Michael, I appreciate that. Now, here's another way that you can access to our TI website or our district website. And you can either go all the way down to District 40 itself, or you can scroll down to Region 6 and click on District 40, and then you will see our page. And it'll be the district performance. So you'll see it's basically the same exact thing that you have seen on the club performance. So our base is 163. This is what we need to get to either distinguished, select presidents, or Smedley distinguished. You'll also see the payments. So currently we have, or our base was 6215. Today we have 261. That's going to go up between now and September 30th. And so we have to meet this, of course, the next 2 years. And then this is where I myself have to focus on, and this is distinguished clubs. And we need a minimum of 66 clubs to be distinguished or better for our district to qualify at least 1/3 of being distinguished. These two right here is for club growth, and this is for program quality.
Hey, David, I have a question. Should it be
Yes.
our VP of membership that talks with our members about renewing?
Yes, yes, it is. But it's a joint thing. One of the things that I also encourage all of you to do when you, if you aren't doing it, is you all should have an executive committee meeting on a monthly basis. And this is where the president, immediate past president, and then the rest of the committee will sit down and they will go over present their reports, and then talk about what's going on to date. It doesn't have to be a long meeting. Normally it's about an hour. It's also good that maybe once a quarter you invite your area director to attend your executive committee meeting. But as far as membership renewal, it kind of falls both. It's mainly the VPM, but you're also responsible for education and training and contests. So that's part of retention. So it also falls on you. It's kind of a blurry line because a lot of times we think it's more on the VPM, but when I was elected club growth director and went to training, I found out that it's a little, even though the VPM is the primary, your VPE really also contributes because your VPM is more responsible for marketing and getting new members and everything else, and you're responsible for retaining the existing members.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm. But here you can either click on division, performance, and what'll end up happening is you'll see the division. You can go down to whatever your division is and click on your club. You could go over to club performance, and you'll see, of course, basically the same thing that I said, but here you'll be able to see what is going on. So that's why I say you should be in both. Now here you can see the training. Hilliard Toastmasters had 6 officers trained, and they turned in their club officer list. This is a good place for you to kind of see what's going on. It's a great screenshot. And then especially on the training, if you know for a fact that you've had 7 officers trained, then you need to reach out to me immediately so that I can change that. Or if you had 5 officers or 6 officers or 4. So for example, here, this club, OCLC, it shows 3 officers were trained. Well, hopefully the VPE is aware, oh, that's not correct. And then they would reach out to me, and then I would make sure, you know, we would do our investigation, and I would send it up to TI to get that changed. But you want to go here and see where your club is. This is going to be your screenshot for sure. So that is important. Any questions? Okay, well, listen, everyone. That will conclude my portion right now of what I wanted all of you to kind of know and learn. I wish it was something that we could incorporate in the 45 minutes during the TLIs and COTs, but there's just so much we have to do in such a short amount of time. But I feel like that this is valuable information for you, and it will help you out throughout your Toastmasters year as the Vice President of Education. I will now like to turn it over to Lavinia Boyer, who will talk to you about pathways and go into a little bit more detail as far as what your role is as the VPE and the base camp manager. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together or give a virtual welcome to distinguished Toastmaster Lavinia Boyer.
Hi, everyone. Am I not muted? Just to make sure. Well, welcome, Vice President of Education, to our pathway session on this town hall. I will share my screen. And share screen two. So everyone, can you see my screen? Okay, great. Okay, so good evening. Oops, actually, I just want to try to organize my computer. Okay, so I can't see anybody once I start sharing my screen. I lost my window, so I'm hoping I got smiles from everybody. But tonight, I would like to take this section of the town hall just to dig a little bit deeper into some of the base camp manager roles that we talked about during the COTs and the TLIs. As David had mentioned earlier, there was a lot of content that needs to get shared during the TLIs, and it's very hard to get everything communicated in the 45 minutes that we are given to present the material. Tonight, I'm going to touch in on just the approval aspect of your role as a base camp manager. I know there was a lot of other aspects of the roles, and we're going to do more educational sessions throughout the year. So look forward to some of the webinar Wednesdays that we'll put out, and just anytime we get an opportunity to put some education out there, we'll always try to bring pathways out to you guys. But feel free to send us questions that you guys have and things that you come across that stumps you, or even things that you discover in your journey as a base camp manager. We're all learning this together, and so we will also learn from the things that you learn. Make sure to communicate that with us so that we can use that to better gauge what is going to be effective to the members out in your clubs. So let's talk about base camp managers, BCM. You'll hear that acronym as we go forward. So when you hear BCM, we're talking about base camp manager. Then pathways, there are 3 officers that have the permissions to conduct activities in base camp manager. It's the Vice President of Education, AKA VPE, which is you guys. There's the President, and there is the Secretary. Now, while all 3 of those officers have the ability to carry out the functions of base camp manager, the base camp manager function is primarily lies with you as Vice President of Education. Now, the extension of the permissions to the other officers serves to help you in conducting your duties as Vice President of Education by allowing you to have some support to manage some of the load. And in the case you're absent or unavailable at a period of time, there's other officers in the club who can continue to serve the functions of the base camp manager and not make that a bottleneck that stops the progress of the club members from moving forward in their educational journey. The other important reason why these duties are important is because you as a base camp manager cannot approve yourself. That's one thing that is really important that you understand, that as a base camp manager, you cannot approve yourself. So you'll need your other base camp managers to approve you as you continue your journey towards your educational goals, because you're a Toastmaster first and you're here also to grow in your journey. Now, as you think about the base camp managers in the role, there is a hierarchy in order of how the approval process should be conducted in base camp. You, who are the Vice President of Education, should be the primary person approving the educational goals as the Vice President of Education. And then as a secondary, you have your president. So in the event that you are not available to approve the request, the next person in line to approve those requests should be the president. And then if the president is not available, then the next person in line to turn to approve the request will be the secretary. So when it comes to you and you need your levels approved, you're going to go to your president to get your president to approve your educational content. And if the president is not available, they'll go to the secretary. Now, in the same respect, just like you can't approve your own request, the president and the secretary also cannot approve their own request. So in the same way, even though they have the ability to approve requests, once they complete a level or path and they need approval, the president and secretary is going to come to you first for that approval. And if you're not available, the president's going to go to the secretary and the secretary is going to go to the president. And so that's how it should work in terms of checks and balances in the role as a Vice President of Education. So when we get into talking about the approval process, it starts by your club member completing their level. They're going to submit that their level is complete. Once they do that, it's going to trigger a process where an email notification is going to come to you as the base camp manager. Once you receive that notification, your role at that point is to act as quick as possible to get that person's approval submitted for their educational goal. So for that reason, you should always be to get yourself in the habit, and I shouldn't say should, but it would be good practice to get yourself into the habit of checking your emails frequently for your advancement of your members in your clubs towards completing their goals. The goal for you as a vice president of education or base camp manager is to work to get the level approval process completed within 2 days. That's the recommendation from TI, and that's what we're also supporting that recommendation of the 2 days. It says 48 hours, make that a goal to try to get the approval process done. So that requires you to be diligent in checking for the frequency and then being active in terms of moving forward. And this is important to your members because a lot of members look forward to that aspect of the approval process to kind of assure them that they're on the right track and to help them to feel satisfied with making progress, because that's important. Also, a lot of members look forward to that recognition that they get from TI and the district in terms of educational accomplishments. But also importantly, I just wanted to mention that while the member is waiting for you to approve their level, they can continue and work towards the rest of their education content, so they can move on. So it doesn't keep them from starting the next project and moving into the next level. However, when they get to their last level, they will not be able to complete. They will not be able to complete their last project in level 5 unless all the previous levels have been approved. So even though you may kick the can down the road and lag in getting requests approved and they can move forward, it will cause a problem if it hasn't been done by the time they get to the point where they want to start their last project in level 5. And so it's really important that we be active in doing that. So as we move into the process, it's a 2-step process. I hear a lot of people think that it's more work to approve a project in Pathways, but when you really think about it, it really is not. It should not be a whole lot more work. I think that it's a little flipped in terms of where you're doing a lot more of the legwork. So in the Pathways process for approval, the first step is going to be approving your base camp activity that goes towards your transcript in terms of what you are working on. And I'm going to flip over to demonstrate on the screen. So can everybody still see this? You see my Basecamp Manager?
Yes.
Okay. So when you log into Basecamp Manager, your homepage of Basecamp Manager is always going to be, you're going to have this panel of the 3 grids. When you come in to approve a request, you have where you're going to get the pending request. But before we go into a pending request, I do want to point out the aspect of the manager tutorials that are there. Hopefully you guys have already been in the midst of fumbling through Basecamp Manager and have already seen this aspect, but this is a great place for you to go and get some tutorials and watch some videos that will help walk you through step by step what to do with managing managing in Basecamp. So, and I'm going to click on, so if we look at level completion, and since we're talking about level completion, I'm going to launch this video. And you know what, I think I did not share my screen with video. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing and then start back to sharing.
Hey, Lavinia,
Yes.
we have 3 minutes before the break.
Okay. All right, so let me launch this share screen. Continue.
To review a level completion request, select the Pending Requests tile from the home page. On this page, you can view all pending approval requests from your club members. To review the member's transcript, select the member's name on the left. To approve the request, select the green check mark on the right. If you find a problem with the request, select the red X to deny it. Enter your name and comments for the member on the next page. Select the Submit button.
And so that's how simple a tutorial can be when you go through the Basecamp. So hopefully everybody heard that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So when we go into pending requests, and I put something in here so that you guys could actually see, you would actually see a list of all of your requests that are pending for you to review. And you would go into, you could click on to go into the member, to go into the transcript. And this is where you would go through to verify that they satisfied the requirements that they used, that they were supposed to do for what they were submitting to get approved in. And then once you decide whether you're going to approve or not, here is where you have your check mark and your X. The one thing that I just definitely want to highlight is when you, regardless of whether you approve or deny, you're going to get this box. It's really important that you put some good notes in this summary to kind of highlight, first of all, who you are that is approving and what your role is as an approver, because as the person moves forward, when they get further out in their journey in Toastmasters, you may or may not be the VPE at the time when this may come up to be needed for use for something down the road. And you also would want to indicate that you verified or what steps you took to verify. And this is something that's also important in the event that you are denying it. This is going to be useful for when you come back to when they resubmit it for you to approve it. And so you would have your notes on what you've already done in terms of the verification, and then what's left to do to verify, which would be the last thing that caused you to not approve it in the first place. So you don't want to do double work in the process as well. And so this, and then you're going to just hit the submit. Now this is important to do to make sure it's complete in the approval process. So I'm going to go back over to the second step of the process is to notify Toastmasters. And this is what David had referred to when he talked about us going into Toastmaster Central to approve a request. So when you go into Toastmaster Central, I'm going to, I click.
We're at the time now, if you want to give them a quick 10.
Okay, so we'll touch back on this when we come back, and so we can go on the short break.
All right, everyone, take 10 minutes. I'll see you all back at 7:26. Okay, everyone, it is 7:26, and for the sake of time, I want to go ahead and let's pick up. I'll turn it back over to Lavinia Boyer so we can finish up with her segment and then get into the last part.
Thank you, David. And just for timing, what time do you want me to turn it back over to you? I'm sure where we are in time.
7:41. Well, 7:41.
Okay. All right. So where we left off at was on the second step. So let me just go back and start sharing my screen again. Okay. So we talked about the first step in the approval process is going through the steps of approving the actual project level completion. within the path, within Basecamp Manager. Once you do that, the person still has not earned their educational goal from the perspective of Toastmasters International, because Basecamp or Pathways Basecamp Manager is just all about the mechanism of how the education training content is managed and maintained on the club level. So right now you've approved it on the club level, that they've completed the requirements of that level. So now you're going to notify Toastmasters International by going to Toastmasters International website. You're going to choose Leadership Central, and then in Leadership Central, you're going to go into Club Central. Now, when you go into Club Central, you're going to go to the Submit Education Awards. Then once you submit Education Awards, you're going to click on the drop-down box to select the member of whose educational awards that you want to use. So I'm going to pick on Carla because she's on this meeting right now and she's in my club. If I was going to submit an education award for her, I would click on her name, and then the next drop-down box is going to ask me to choose what educational award I am going to be awarding her. And as you can see here, it's listing all of the things that she is working towards earning right now. And so we see that we have her path here that she's working on, and it's already outlined that she's in line. She's working on level 1. So all I would do is click on that path for that particular level that was submitted for. And then once I do that, I'm going to click on the next button, which I'm not because I don't want to award it, which reviews the award for submission. And so then that simple process, after you get to the end and click on the submit, that is going to send a notification over to Toastmasters International. And then at that point, they would do everything on their end to fully award her level completion for that educational criteria. And so until that last step is done, your member has not earned their awards. So it's really important that you remember that it is a 2-step process that you will need to do in Toastmasters. So let me just cancel this because I can't approve my award. And I definitely wanted to highlight, just in the same light as I mentioned for Basecamp Manager, you cannot, just the same way you cannot approve your own level completions, you also cannot submit for your own educational awards. So if you have completed your level 1, it's important that when you go to the president, for the president to approve your level completion in Basecamp Manager, they too have to follow the full steps of the process to do step 2 by going into Leadership Central, into Club Central, and submitting the educational award for yourself to complete the whole process. And so I'm just going to summarize. I'm going to go back over to my PowerPoint and just summarize. So we are going to go into our Basecamp Manager and go into our pending request. Once we're in pending request, we are going to identify the request that's been submitted. We're going to click on the member's name to go through their curriculum to verify that they've completed everything that was required for that level completion. And then we're going to acknowledge whether we approve it or not. Once we acknowledge whether we approve it or not, we're going to complete the approval request summary by inputting our name and our role and whatever supporting information that supports what we've done or why we are or not approving this level. And there was a question in the chat box that somebody had asked, and that was if the date is necessary in the box, or does it already update? You do not have to put the date in the summary box. Once this gets submitted, the date is going to be tagged in the transcript of the member with the date that it was approved. Okay. And then once we hit the submit button, we have to follow through with the next part of the process by going into Club Central. And under Club Central, we're going to go to Submit Education Awards and then input all the criteria to grant that member the level completion. And so that's the full process that we'll go through to approve your basic level completion. Now, there are some additional approvals that you will see that comes up here. As I had showed you before, I actually, there's two other things that you'll have to approve as a Basecamp manager. You'll also be approving material in the printed paths, as well as approving projects conducted outside of the club. I'm going to switch back over to Toastmasters International for a second. And I wanted to just go back to the path completion for printed materials. And I'm going to play the tutorial because I think, one, it highlights the process that you'll go through to approve the projects in printed path, but it's also mimicking what you're already doing to approve the online content. So it's really, you're really doing the same thing in a sense, but the only thing you're going to just click a few extra boxes. I'm going to launch this real quick.
For members working on a print path, validate each project as it is completed. When all projects in the level are complete, validate the level. Begin by searching for the member by typing their name in the search box. Select the appropriate member. Select the Transcript tab in the member's Basecamp profile. On the Education Transcript, select the Open Curriculum button next to the path. In this example, the member has completed the icebreaker in Level 1, and you need to validate the completion. Select the View Details button to the right of Level 1. Now you are viewing the projects in Level 1. Select the View Checklist button next to the icebreaker. The checklist will open. Check the box under the Completion heading. Select the Save button on the left to save it as complete. The page will reload and show the project as completed. Once all the required projects are validated, you will be able to validate the Level 1 Completion Presentation Mastery checklist. For level completion validation, select the checkbox under the Level 1 Completion heading on this page. Then select the Save button on the left.
And there you have it. So this was the steps to go through to review, to complete the approval process for someone doing the printed path. And the same way that you would go into their transcript to actually go in and confirm that they did the content that was required, that's exactly where you're going to be going when you're verifying that your member completed the projects online in the first place. The only difference, you don't have to select the checkbox that says yes, they did it. You'll just see that they've done it. And this is something that I encourage you to go back, because I know this is kind of like high level. Go back and rewatch this training tutorial by going into your Basecamp Manager and then going to your Basecamp Manager, go to the Manager Tutorials, and then click on the tutorial for the level completions. The last thing that also I wanted to mention that you're going to be working on is your members are also going to be are able to work on projects outside of the club. And they will go through the process of submitting to you that request that they are asking for permission to conduct a speech or project outside of the club. So when you get when they submit their request, I'm going to go over to Basecamp for a minute. When they submit their request, they're going to go into their transcript. If it comes up, they're going to go into their transcript. And when they go into their transcript, there's this little box here with the dots next to it. When they click on it, the first item, it says add external training. And they're going to click on this add external training. And then they're going to get this form to just put in the information as to what the assignment is that they're working on and how and what their plan is to do the assignment that's going to be outside of the club, and then specify who is going to work with them to work on the project, or once it identify how they're going to get evaluated, what that whole process is going to be like. You're going to put all of that into this form, and then you're going to submit it. And then once you submit it, that form is what is going to come through to your Basecamp manager for them to approve it. And it'll show up here. Let me go back. Oh, I have to go all the way out, sorry. Oh. Okay, so let me go home. Okay, so I have to log back into Basecamp Manager, sorry. So when you go in as a Basecamp Manager, what you're gonna get from them in your pending request is that request to speak outside of the club. And so I created one to show you how it appears. So this was my request that I submitted that Carla is going to have to approve for me to speak outside of the club. And so in here, I have the description of what I'm going to be doing on this project and the information about the project. And then so she can see what I'm planning to do. So all she's doing here is acknowledging that I am asking to do that. And she's going to approve if she feels like everything that she needs is there. Once she approves this, when I go back into my transcript, then I will have an extra item in my transcript that will be this item that she just approved. So when you look at your transcript, initially you have your initial path and any other training content you touched on. You'll also have this listed. And so once the member does their project outside of the club, they will come back and they'll fill out the rest of the information to document what they've done and any supporting material that was in the agreement of what they was going to supply. And then they're going to resubmit that back to the Basecamp manager. And then this request will come back with the additional information requesting for final approval for it to get added as completed. And so once again, she would go in and validate that and then do the same thing by clicking on the checkbox if she approves. And then when she clicks on the checkbox, you'll get the pop-up box to put the information in. So it's the same, everything else will be the same as what you're used to for approving a regular level. It'll just be for something different. And so all of these are the aspects that you'll go through in approving the content. I know this is a new aspect, and I do have questions out to TI to just get some additional questions that I have in terms of how evaluations are going to be done when it's outside of the club. From my understanding, you're not limited to how many you can do outside of the club. So in the legacy, it was only 2, but now you're able to do more. So I'll have more information that I'll communicate out to all the members on additional information that I learned about working outside of the club. So overall, that is a deeper dive into the Basecamp manager approval process. Hopefully that helps you guys shed a little bit light, but go back over some of those tutorials, and there's a tutorial that will walk you through each of the steps, and that should also help you when you're on your own. I'll turn it back to David, or we can open it for questions. I'm not sure which one you'd rather do. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Well, let's open it up to questions first. Does anyone have any questions for Lavinia? Comments?
So if somebody's going for their ALS or DTM, I realize this is the last year that they can do that. Would it be the outside club that they submit that through, or where do you submit that through then?
For the legacy program, that's going to be submitted in TI Club Central like you would normally do in the old program. So just how you saw me go in to submit for the path level completion, one of the other options that was on Carla's list was her ACS. That was one of the options listed there. And so that's the same place you would go to submit that as well. You're not going to do anything in Pathways Basecamp Manager for anything legacy.
Okay, and so those options are only available if somebody's completed their ALB already?
Correct. So the only thing you're going to be submitting for in Club Central concerning the old program is any of the leadership things that people still need to complete, like their club coaching, or I don't know, I think it's just club coaching and the, I don't even know if HPL is in there. David, what is in there? Is it just the club coaching, club sponsor mentoring?
It would be what the requirements they would need to receive their ALS. The HPL, they've said that you could do club coach, mentor, sponsor, HPL. So those are
Okay, yeah.
the main requirements for the ALS. And then you would submit for the ALS. And then once you submit that, then you can immediately submit for the DTM.
Okay.
But they would have had to have had their ACG completed. It's not going to show up. So I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, if they have not completed the communication side, you don't have to worry about the ALS at all. It's not going to show up on their profile.
This Tim, I'm not sure about that because I was just skimming through my members, and I've got several new ones who basically joined during Pathways, and all three options are showing their current Pathways, ALS, and DTM.
Right, but if you look at the ALS and DTM, the ALS should be grayed out, which means that there's no way that it'll be able to, you'll be able to click on it.
I can, but I'm not going to, I know not to at this point, so.
Yeah. If it is, just let us know and we'll let TI know. But from the email correspondence that I've received from TI, they're saying that only those members that are eligible will be able to get it. And I can tell you this also, if for whatever reason you click on it by mistake, if they haven't completed anything, you're not going to be able to do it. So I'll give you a perfect example. I needed to complete my club growth director year before I could submit my ALS and DTM. I tried to submit it on June 27th. I wasn't able to do it because I hadn't met the requirements as serving as a district officer. So even if you make the mistake, don't worry about it. You're not going to be able to go any further.
Well, here's what I did. It comes up and says this member joined Path or Pathways rolled out and is not eligible. So there we go. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Tim. Thank you for the question.
I don't have a question for Basecamp. I have a question for Pathways. Is now a good time to ask that?
Yes.
Sure.
So when I went through level 1, I'm on level 3 right now, so I didn't go back, but wasn't there a place in Pathways that you could input that you've filled roles like Toastmaster, General Evaluator, Table Topics? Where is that within the curriculum of each path? Is it just level 1?
No, it's actually not part of the levels at all. It is actually part of your profile in Basecamp Manager. I mean, in Basecamp. So when you click into Basecamp and then you click on your profile, and you could also click in the upper corner, you'll see like a little bitty picture with a head on it. If you click on that, it'll take you to your profile. And so either one of those two places will take you, and then you'll see, if you scroll down, you'll see some drop-down boxes with calendars next to the various roles for you to fill in the dates where you completed those roles for the club.
And does that count toward any of the awards, or is it just a way to keep track?
It's a way of keeping track. Now, some of your levels will require you to do certain officer roles. And so by doing that, it's helpful to the Basecamp manager because it's right there with the last time that you filled out the role. So for example, in level 1, you have to be a speech evaluator. So if you go in and you perform the role of a speech evaluator and then you update your Basecamp profile to show the date you did it, when you submit your level 1 completion, the Basecamp manager or your president, if you're the VPE, is going to be able to look into look at your profile when they click on you and see the date that you served in the role as evaluator to confirm that you fulfill the requirements. Now, if people don't do that, the Basecamp manager is going to have another mechanism to track when the people perform. Like some people use Free Toast Host, and
That's what we do.
And the agenda and things like that. Some people keep a tracking document on how they do it. It's up to you to determine what works best for your club, but I think that it's important that you guys agree on what you guys are doing and communicate that across the board so that everybody will be on board and follow what needs to happen to make it as smooth as possible for you as the Basecamp manager.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Lavinia. Truly appreciate that. Want you to stick on for sure if there's questions once we wrap up. What I'd like to do now is just kind of go into Leadership Central for the VPs. Now, initially, what I want to take you to first is over here to Club Officer Tools. And then here you'll see Club Officer Roles. And this is good for all the officers. I would strongly encourage you or suggest that you encourage your officers to look at this. But here's something that's good, especially the second half of the year when you are looking for new officers. If you have this, which you can print out, it is an overview of what your role consists of, whether it's Vice President of Education, President, whatever the case may be. So this is definitely a great tool for you to have. Plus, you also can look at the tutorial and see what your role consists of. It may answer some questions that maybe you don't get answers from in the TLIs, and possibly this also. So I strongly encourage all of you to take a look at that, and then also to encourage the other officers to do that too. Let's go back here really quick. Here's another thing, Club Officer Resources. Now I do have a folder that I'll make available at the end of this session, but I would strongly encourage all of you to take a look at this. And you could go through it. A lot of this, they're going to update as soon as the ALS and DTMs are done. After this year, this page will no longer exist. But you can find things such as an assessment worksheet. You can also find here like club dues receipt if you want your, excuse me, treasurer to actually give receipts out to the club. There's a lot of different things that you can find. Let me go a little bit further in. Here, this is good where you could see about the Distinguished Club Program. And I really want to talk about that for a quick minute. I truly encourage all of you to sit down with the executive committee members and actually come up with a plan. This will be a roadmap for your club in the direction that you want to go in. It'll talk about things such as who's going to get the level, who's going to get the level 2, the level 3, the additional level 3, level 4, and additional level 4, 5, or DTM, and additional levels. It also talks about whether or not you guys want to do open houses and things like this. This is a great tool, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a living document. So you could look at it, let's say quarterly, and if you're on track, then great. But if you're not, then you can adjust it. If you maybe you're ahead or you're behind, you can make adjustments. But it's kind of an accountability tool that you want to have. The district, your trio, we have to fill one out for the district also. So that's definitely something that you can do. Another thing is moments of truth, and both of these are in this folder that I'll pass along to all of you. But I strongly encourage you to do moments of truth. You should do moments of truth twice a year. At the beginning of your Toastmaster year, so you could do it like in the June or July time frame, and then midway through the December, January time frame. And the moments of truth is also a good tool, but this is for the members to actually tell you as club officers how they feel the club is doing. As far as like when you're greeting guests, things of those nature. And then you would take, let's say, the top 3 that the club needs to work on, and you guys will work on those 3 items and then take a look at it at that half-year mark. And if you completed it, then you can go to the next 3. But if you do this twice a year, trust me, your club will always be in good standings. Any questions on those 2? All right, now, here is where I want you guys to pay attention to. We're going to talk a little bit about this. I know in the past, maybe a lot of you are not familiar with this, but this is where you can find the governing documents, policies and protocols, and your club constitutions. I'm not going to suggest that you read all of them, but we're going to focus on these 2 here. Club Constitution for Clubs of Toastmasters International, and Policies and Protocols. Now, when you click on the plus, you'll see there's a total of 12 articles. I would get familiar with those, but the 2 things that I think you guys really should pay attention to would be your quorum and voting. So if you ever have to vote on something, such as maybe changing the time and day of your meeting, going from in-person to virtual, if you're the president and VPE, your voting responsibilities for the DEC, the District Executive Council meetings. If you're a president and club secretary, that also would talk about your responsibilities voting at the International Convention. So you definitely want to learn Article 5 very well. And then also, one other thing that I think would be good for you is the rules of order. And of course, when you click on that, it'll take you basically to this. But this will let you know if you are voting on something just in the club level. It's important that you understand how to do that correctly, because if you have a member that feels like maybe you're not doing it correctly and you vote and it appears that it has passed, that can be challenged, and then you would have to take it up through the district and possibly to Toastmasters International to see if you followed everything correctly. So I definitely want all of you to be familiar with the club constitutions and everything, but especially for Articles 5 and 9. Definitely learn about those 2, because we're going to go into policies and protocols. And here is the one thing that all of you should know, and that is policy 3.0, and that's ethics and conduct. And the reason that you all should know this one more than anything else is in case you have an issue with a member in your club, whether they're disruptive, whether or not they are causing turmoil in the club, they're not doing things. You may have a question about how they are conducting themselves or whatever. The bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, this is your Bible. This will let you know what the club can do if you have issues like this. A lot of times you may think that, okay, we need to take it up to the district. Not necessarily. Really, it's the club and then Toastmasters International. You can inform the trio if you're having problems so that we know and we're aware of it. But ultimately, a lot of the things you can handle internally. If someone does something so egregious that you are looking to possibly sanction them, and the sanctions can be as light as a slap on the wrist and as severe as they lose their membership to Toastmasters for life, that's when you'll get the district involved, and then we'll get Toastmasters International involved. Basically, what will happen is the board will look at the complaint, and from there, they'll report back to the district. At that point, the district director will appoint a disciplinary committee chair, and then that chair will get a committee together. They will review the complaint, and then they will reach out to that member. That member will have a chance to explain themselves or dispute the complaint. And then after that, the committee makes a recommendation. And from there, then that recommendation goes to the deck. And the deck consists of the trio, or the top seven, I should say the top seven, the division and area directors, and the presidents and VPEs. And at that point, the deck is the one that will decide whether or not to go forward with the punishment. So it's truly, I'm telling you, out of everything we've talked to you about today, I want you guys to know policy 3.0. You need to know that like the back of your hand. That way, if anything happens, you know, it can talk about here. You look at subsection E, members shall not conduct or condone programs, activities, or communications which are defamatory, malicious, offensive, derogatory, damaging, false, libelous, or otherwise detrimental to the best interest of Toastmasters International. Members shall not assist, support, aid, facilitate, invite, or condone anyone or anything that interferes with or is detrimental to the programs, proceedings, or affairs of Toastmasters International or its clubs. So it breaks it down, ladies and gentlemen, to everything that you can do as a member. And it's very important for you to do that, because sometimes we get members who might give speeches or make comments that are inappropriate, and you as an officer may feel powerless. And then all of a sudden you lose a member because the member brings it to your attention and you're not sure what to do. And then that member feels like, well, they're not looking out for my best interest. And all of a sudden you lose that member. So this is to protect the members first. Always remember, it's the members first, and then it works its way down. So it protects the members, the clubs, the areas, divisions, districts, regions, and then Toastmasters International itself. But it's a very good policy for you to know. It is long, but I promise you, once you are familiar with this, ladies and gentlemen, you will never have to worry about anything happening that you are not aware of. And I definitely want you to, when you are transitioning out from being the VP, to pass this information along to the person who will be taking your place. Well, as you can see, it's long. I think it has 10. And then you can see where you have two parts of protocol, or well, actually you have, I want to make sure you guys understand. You actually have protocol 3.0, which is ethics and conduct. And then you have protocol 3.0, which is, let me just go back this way. This is easier. Which is reporting violations. So you definitely need to know both of them. I know it seems like a lot, but this will help you out in the long run. It's something that I learned about my first time being a VPE, and I found it very valuable, and it actually helped me out in a situation that I needed to deal with. And I was able to do it at the club level, so it didn't have to get escalated. Any questions about that? I saw someone write something in the chat. Michael, is there anything in there?
David, that was Gail. We are at time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I was looking at the time anyway. Thank you so much, Gail. All righty, ladies and gentlemen. So let me stop sharing this and try to share this last thing. So this last thing I want to share is just some resources for you to have. There's a member survey. I don't know why it's not opening. Oh, come on. Okay. But there's things in there. There's the member survey, and that's for your existing members. And I would encourage you to get that to everyone. And all that is just asking the members what their goal is for the year. And that's good for you so that you can know what they need. Maybe they're focusing on speaking, or maybe they want to focus on leadership. That way you'll know exactly what they need. There's also the new member interest form that the VPM should have, but you should know about that. And both of you should be communicating about that. Also in there is the moments of truth and a couple of other items. For whatever reason, I can't open this up. What I will do is, I know I have everyone's email address. I'll get it from Gail, and I'll make sure to email that information out to you all. Again, I truly apologize. I don't know what's going on with my computer. It's been acting funny lately.
Is it a link you're trying to open, Dave?
Well, it's from my file. I can't even open the file. So
Okay.
I think it's something wrong with my laptop. It's not the link itself. But I'll get that out to you guys no later than tomorrow. Real quick, what I really would like to do is just open it up for questions and comments. And really what I want to know is, did you find this valuable information? Because this is going to be something that I want to continue, at least if not on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, so that it will benefit the VPEs. And if there was anything that maybe we didn't touch that you felt that we should have touched on, or maybe you didn't think it was good enough, trust me, it's not going to hurt my feelings, because this is a first time thing, but I want to make it as valuable to the VPs as possible. And before I open it up to any comments about that, I'm also developing a VPE committee, and this is going to be past VPEs that are going to sit on a committee, and every quarter we're going to have a webinar only for VPEs, for you guys to talk about your triumphs and your struggles, ask questions about what they did in their year as VPs, and then we're able to give you information throughout the year. So like this first one that we'll probably end up doing towards the end of September, it's just going to be about their successes, their trials and tribulations, and then you'll answer questions. Then each quarter there'll be a theme based on what's happening during that quarter. So I want to make you aware of that. You will get more information about that when we get closer. But please let me open this up because I do want to, for the sake of time, get everyone out. Any questions? I know I've seen some people type stuff in the chat and I appreciate that. Any comments that people want to verbalize and not chat? Here's your opportunity.
Hey, David, Lamar here. I just want to say this was very helpful. I really do appreciate you and Lavina taking the time out to help to inform. I know I had some questions. Actually, I was talking to a member today, so I'm not sure. This would probably be a question that's more offline to be able
Okay.
to walk through.
Yeah, we could get
I'm
together.
not sure who to talk to about that.
You and I can get together, and if I can't answer it, I'll direct you to who can.
Okay, sounds good. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
David
Thank you.
Hill. This is
Yes.
Kent Byerly. I'm the Vice President of Education, Dayton Top Mentors.
Hey, Kent, how are you?
Hi. First, thank you for putting this together. In my 20 years in Toastmasters, the first time something like this was kind of put together where it's like, let's bring in all the VPEs and talk about the business. And so I say thank you for doing this. And I'm glad that this is not just a one-time thing, that this is ongoing. So way to go.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that is, yeah, I appreciate some of the areas that you covered. I myself had found it difficult trying to instill the ideas of following a club constitution and trying to follow Robert's rules. And some of the newer Toastmasters were like, we don't have to follow that. I was like, yeah, we do. Because it says right here. Like, well, we don't have to follow that either.
But the good thing, Ken, is now you can actually do what I did. You can have a presentation to your club when those questions come up so that they know this is to protect them more than anything else. It's not just for Toastmasters International and the brand, but it's to protect the members, and the members need to understand this. And then that way, everyone is on the same sheet of music. So thank you so much for that. I truly appreciate it.
Sorry I missed the first part. Let's just say, thanks to the Zoom learning experience that I've been going through, and I can say thanks again to Mike Pope for getting me started in that area. I've been busy being Mr. Zoom for multiple groups and organizations. In fact, I was a Zoom host for a group meeting tonight. So it's kind of hard to be in two Zoom places at once. So as soon as I got over here, I came in.
We did record this. The link will be up soon. So if you missed anything, I did notice that we had some people come in after the fact. You're more than welcome to look at it and everything else. So
okay,
you don't have to worry about what you missed, Ken. But
yeah, I saw that, we have 3 people recording this, so it's like, well, there'll be a copy someplace, I hope, for personal or for community review. So again, in conclusion, I want to thank you again for putting this together. This is a very good resource that I think will help out a lot of individuals within the district, at least, because I have been in every officer position in Toastmasters, and the hardest one is VPE, especially when I'm trying to make the transition from the legacy program to the pathways program. Now, luckily, I am not technically illiterate in that I am been busy with a lot of various different types of technology, and I was able to pick it up with a lot of assistance and help from other individuals. So I've made that transition, and this is a really great thing. Keep it going. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Ken. Anyone else have anything, any comments or questions that they would like to share?
Yeah, this is Tim Snyder. I'm with Emerson Toastmasters in Sydney. I'm just a new VPE. I've been able to spend time doing the button pushing, a lot of the stuff Lavinia's been covering, so that kind of helped fill in some of the spots that I've encountered. But David, to your session there on the identifying the governing documents and what sections that I hadn't even looked at all, so that was good to highlight the critical items.
Great. I appreciate it. Listen, everyone, you know, I'd love to take up more time getting your comments. Feel free to either submit them in the chat, we'll save them, or you could reach out to me directly. That's Program Quality Director at d40toastmasters.org. Michael or Gail, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat for people to have, and just share your thoughts. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me personally. I'm just here. I just have a little bit more knowledge than you do. That's it. That's the only reason I'm in the role that I'm in. But my goal is to uplift each and every one of you, to make you as successful as possible, and to make your journey as a Vice President of Education as seamless as we possibly can. If you ever have any suggestions, don't hesitate to bring those up. I don't know everything. Gail can tell you I rely on my team a lot to help me out, but this was something that I knew I wanted to do once I was elected Program Quality Director, and I'm really pleased that all of you found value in this. It means a lot. In saying that, I want to again thank Michael Pope for being our Zoom master tonight. Michael, as usual, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Lavinia Boyer, thank you. You know, I truly appreciate this, and I know that the VPEs appreciate what you did, and keep up the good work with that. And then, even though she really wasn't in the forefront, I want to thank my assistant, Gail Kelson, for making all of this possible for everyone. Can someone put my email address in there? They were asking about that. Without Gail, this wouldn't have happened. She made sure everything happened from start to finish. So thank you again, everyone. I truly, truly appreciate you all, and appreciate the time that you have. And with that, I say good night. I apologize that we went over about 14 minutes, but I think it was well worth it. I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. So have a wonderful evening, and God bless you all.
Also, you can save the chat, and Lavinia put her presentation in the chat, so you need to download that before the meeting ends if you want a copy of it.
And we'll also send an email note out to everyone when this has been uploaded to our District 40 YouTube site.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.